Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Minecraft Disney World. This week we're headed back to Hollywood Studios and we're taking a look at what may end up now becoming the first of many similarly themed rides. We're going to be taking a look at Star Tours. Now, of course, what I'm saying there is that recent news has actually just surfaced that we may be seeing a Star Wars land built in Disney's Hollywood Studios. Of course, the reason to do this is because Disney recently acquired Lucasfilm, and so now they own all the Star Wars IP, and there'd be no reason not to. We might also see a Cars land in Disney Hollywood Studios, and so you might actually see Disney's Hollywood Studio go from, this moderately sized one-day theme park to becoming something more, on par with the Magic Kingdom pretty soon. But in any case, this is the ride that started it all, Star Tours. There's some interesting history with it. So the ride actually first appeared in Disneyland in 1987. It replaced a ride called Adventure Through Inner Space, and there was also one in Hollywood Studios. They were both done in tandem with George Lucas helping out. He had, this was going right off of Captain EO when there was a collaboration there. It worked out well. They wanted to do it again. They ended up both closing July in 2010 and then September 2010 so that they could be refurbed for what would be considered Star Tours 2, The Adventure Continues, which is what you could ride now here at MC Magic. And the basic premise of the ride, if you've never been on it, is that you get into the simulator for a spaceship in the Star Wars universe, and you go on these adventures through these famous Star Wars scenes. In the first ride, the original incarnation, it was you sitting in the simulator and there was a screen in front, and it was the motion simulator, like most, would rock and bend and twist to what you were doing on screen. And the new version, Star Tours 2, does it similarly, but it's in 3D now. It's got much more updated visuals. Since the original ride was in the late 80s, you could just imagine the jump in visuals. And they've added this randomized element, whereas in the original Star Tours, you would go through a very scripted preset of scenes. Here, it randomizes it between 6. So now, you can go to Hoth, you can go to Tatooine, you could go to Kashyyyk, you could go to Coruscant, you could go to Naboo, or Geonosis, and it randomizes every time. Every time you ride the ride, it should be different. It actually almost didn't exist as Star Tours. The proposal for this ride was going to be called The Black Hole, and it was going to be based on the 1979 live-action film. Actually, The Black Hole and Tron are sometimes considered to be Disney's attempt at really pushing the boundaries in terms of special effects, and one of them went on to be wildly popular. The other one, not so much. I'm sure a lot of people remember The Black Hole. But it was the idea of a interactive ride simulator where you have the ability to choose your path. The problem was it was going to cost $50 million to make, and at the end of the day, the Black Hole just wasn't that popular. So they shelved it. They decided not to make it, but they took that idea, and the Disney's sort of great about this is they'll take what's good in an idea and they will apply it elsewhere, and that's what they did with this. They took the good of the Black Hole and they turned it into Star Tours. So you have in this ride, you're guided by this little robot called RX-24 or Rex, and he was voiced by Paul Rubens, who most people probably know as Pee Wee Herman. And you would go through, and the idea was you were a tourist in space who gets caught up in the rebellion a little bit. And that theme sort of follows through in Star Tours too, in that every time you ride on the ride, there is a rebel spy on board with you, and it's one of you who are riding it, and at partway through, they confirm who the rebel spy is, and so you get to see somebody's face at one point or another on the screen as the rebel spy. So they closed it down in 2010, and in May and June of 2011, they opened up for Star Tours 2. One must wonder, though, at what point in negotiations Disney was with Lucas in the acquisition for Lucasfilm. Did they refurb this knowing full well that within a year Disney would own all of Star Wars IP and could use this as sort of a building point to a larger land that we might end up seeing now. We might be seeing more rides based on Star Wars, which was fantastic. John Williams, the composer for Star Wars, he wanted to write the music for the attraction, but he took a look at all these sequences and he decided that he kind of didn't need to. There's so much Star Wars music out there that you could have just used what was out there already, and that's essentially what happened. And then another composer was brought in to just do like little music here and there for like commercials and the pre-ride videos, stuff like that. And that is more or less Star Tours. It's a very straightforward ride. You go through it. There's a cool gift shop at the end, just full of Star Wars merchandise. It sort of is the unofficial hub of the Hollywood studios during Star Wars weekends for obvious reasons. They have a stage out there now where they do the Jedi Academy for, you know, younger kids. And all around, it's a fun place. It's a fun ride. It's exciting. It's definitely gotten more exciting. A lot of people I remember when it first came out, were a little critical of how rough the ride could be because it was a very shaky ride. But I think what happened, I don't think they toned it down so much. I think just sort of our standards of what we could take for a thrill ride have gone up over the years. And so now it's just pretty much an on-par ride. Definitely worth checking out. Whenever you get to Hollywood Studios, and maybe it'll be now the gateway to a larger land, especially because in that corner you sort of got Star Tours and you have Indiana Jones, and you know that's another semi-Lucas property. Lucasfilm did make Indiana Jones, so that sort of would be a great gateway into like a Star Wars land. In any case, that's been a quick look at Star Tours. I hope whatever you're doing in the next week, you make the most of it. I hope you have a great time doing it. And I hope to see you here next week when we'll pick another attraction from one of the theme parks. We'll ride through them on MC Magic, and we'll talk a little bit about the history of the actual ride and its existence in Walt Disney World. Bye, everyone.